everyone has their own experiences that they can share with people. It's not good or bad. It's you're
Hmm.
sharing an experience. You're sharing how you interpret certain things. And if someone can take one tiny little piece from that and do something in their own life, then that is worth so much.
Hey, Lynn, thanks so much for joining me.
Hi.
How are you doing?
I'm good, thanks. It's Friday, so it feels really good.
I really loved your chapter. It was all about gratitude and how you incorporated gratitude in moments that I feel most of us would have a very hard time to. So it was a beautiful lesson with a lot of powerful reflections. If you could take us back to where your daughter had an accident and you weren't sure if she was going to make it. And as
Mm,
you were going to the hospital with your husband, you both were practicing gratitude in that moment instead of panicking.
yeah. It's difficult to talk about it and think about it again, but it was such it was such a moment where it was proof where the practice was really something that came true at a time when we most needed. So I think if someone
Mhm.
has never really done gratitude and then you're faced with such a big, powerful life moment like that, it's hard to just say, okay,
Mhm.
well let's practice gratitude. So
Yeah.
because we had been doing it so much along the way for the last few years, really, we looked at each other, we said, okay, this is the time. Like this is a time where we need it the most.
Mhm.
And we just, of course, the panic came. The initial emotion
Yeah.
was panic. And we were driving to the hospital. They had called us with the intent that they weren't able to wake her up and they needed us
Oh,
to be there. They thought if she heard one of our voices, that maybe that would help her. So of course we thought this is it. Like we're going to the hospital probably for the last time. We won't see her again. And then we went,
mm,
spiral as any, I think, parent would go.
of course.
And then we just caught ourselves in our track and said, okay, think of all the wonderful things that we've shared with her. Think of all the things that she's done in her short 20, whatever years it was at the time.
Oh.
And it really helped ground us.
Mm,
It helped us appreciate what we did have and what she did have. And it
mm,
really, it calmed us down. It grounded us. And then we had a few little, moments of, oh, remember this, remember that. Can you believe she did this? Can you believe? And it just helped us. It just really, we hung on to that so deeply and believed in it so much. It
yeah.
really helped us for that long ride to the hospital to see her.
Wow. I think I'm not going to forget that story. Was that after you were already a high performance coach, or was this when you were in your corporate world?
No, this was after.
After, okay.
Yeah.
And I want to know how you made the switch because you went from 20 years in corporate field to being a high performance coach, certified breath work, certified yoga instructor. You even volunteer as a therapy dog coordinator. You're doing all these amazing, fulfilling things. I wanted to know how you made that switch, and was there anything in particular that inspired that?
Yeah. So I started off in the insurance world, and through the insurance, I actually took care of a program that provides different corporate rates for the teachers of Ontario. Is how it started, and everything was going swimmingly. I mean, I actually told them, you know what, insurance is not really my thing, and we actually created this program that was a little bit away from insurance, but I was still able to work for this company. Like everything just seemed to be just really aligning for me, and everything was so wonderful.
Hmm.
Three lovely daughters, a loving husband, a long-term relationship. Like we were married 20 whatever years at the time, beautiful home. Like everything on paper should have just matched up, like tick, 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 tick,
Hmm.
tick. And still had this void
Yeah.
inside. I just had something that was calling me. And it was really helping others, is what I really felt that I needed to be pulled to do a little bit more. And I always had that little, I wanted to be an entrepreneur in the back of my mind. And
Mm-hmm.
one morning I just woke up and my husband said, I don't know what you're waiting for. Like, no one is going to say, okay, this is now the perfect time to go on your own and start a new business. And I went, oh. He said, it's like having children. Like, there's not a perfect time.
Yep.
And the minute he kind of said that, it just like gave me this mental permission to, oh, okay, then maybe it's time. So
Mm.
after a few months of reflection, then I couldn't go back. Once you kind of make that little leap, I couldn't go back to no, no, this is okay. This is fine. It's paying the bills. I needed
Mhm.
more. So finally, I just made the leap. I just thought, here we go.
And how did you choose coaching? Was that something that people mentioned to you you're really good at?
Yeah, I think I've always been a coach. Within my corporate world, people would come to me. I did a lot of
Mm,
training. I did a lot of meetings and sessions and helped people go from, a starter level to moving up into the company. People in the corporate world and outside seem to come to me to ask for my advice or to ask me
yeah.
for, what's next or how could I deal with this situation. So I think it's always been in me. It just
Mhm.
to go in the big bad world and like actually say, okay, now I'm going to do that was a little scary.
Yeah. And how did you decide to incorporate breath work and yoga? Because I think that's a beautiful combination.
Yeah, isn't that funny?
It
So I've always had yoga kind of like I always say it was like my home button. So regardless what was going on in my life, yoga would I just go on the mat and it was like when you refresh your computer, it just felt
Mhm.
like that. So I've always had that as a tool for myself. And I wanted to deepen my knowledge of yoga. So I just randomly one time decided, okay, this is what I'm going to do for my goal this year. I'm going to certify, but it was just for my deepening level for my own. I was never going to coach.
Mhm.
And the coach actually said, okay, so when you teach a class, I'm like, no, I'm not teaching a class. And she said, oh, I think you are. So,
Wow.
of course, from there, once you have someone believing in you, I just taught
Mhm.
one and then I taught another. And then we had to do several classes for our certification. And I
Mhm.
loved it. I loved what it did for others. I loved how they responded. I loved that I was providing them their home button that I've had all of these years. Everything that you hear now with wellness, everything, you can always bring it back to some yoga teachings. So with my teaching certification and the yoga together, they just blended so well. So it just made sense. I say that I coach from the mat.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. I love it. It's very
Yeah,
unique. I
it
love how
is.
you put that together. And
Yeah.
in your practice, do you find people have a hard time practicing gratitude? Do you find there's something that holds us back from practicing?
Yeah, great question. So I think when everything is going swimmingly and you're happy and everything seems to be okay, we're so quick to say, "Oh, I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful for this. I'm so grateful for health. I'm so grateful." And it's
Mhm.
true and it's good. And I think when you're in really desperate situations, it's also easy to go back to, "Oh my gosh, I was so grateful when things were the way they were, and I
Mhm.
appreciate it now." And it's that in the middle, the everyday, the mundane. I find people forget, and then you can get kind of caught up with what's happening with someone else or comparing yourself or feeling social media come into play and you want that or you want to go where they went or you want to buy more things and I
Yeah.
think we forget to practice in those times.
Yeah. You mentioned social media. Do you think that that is, I don't want to say messing with their mind, but getting in there and causing a little bit more comparison?
Yeah, I think it's always been there. I can remember way back when stopping reading Hello magazine. I love the royalty and all those stories. So, and I actually, when I would read it at night, I would fall asleep with this feeling. And I noticed that it was because you'd see all the glamour and you saw everyone seemingly have this wonderful life and they have all these beautiful homes. And I remember then when I went to bed, it made me feel icky. So I think
Mhm.
social media is the exact same thing. It's not any worse or better or different. It's just it's so in our faces all the time, 24/7 if you let it. So I think it's up to us to put our own boundaries, to practice gratitude so that
Mhm.
we're strong, grounded, and calm. So that all that noise out there, it's always going to exist. I mean, people are making millions of dollars doing exactly that.
Yeah.
It's their job. So I
Yeah.
think it's up to us, the consumer, to decide what is coming in my brain and what is not.
Mhm.
And that's a really difficult thing that I think we're all up against because it's so there all the time. So me, it was a magazine. I could turn it off. I know I could close it and put it away and say, I'm not
Yeah.
going to read that tonight. That was
Yeah.
one little thing. Imagine
Mhm.
having social media everywhere. It's very challenging.
It is. I have to stop myself from scrolling, doom scrolling. So I have to make a conscious effort to say, shut it off. Don't take it to your bed.
Ah,
Because then,
yeah,
like you said, it can get in the brain and gets into your subconscious. So
yeah,
that's very important. I have a 4-year-old and a 7-year-old, and
yes.
I'm trying to teach them gratitude. Do you have any tips for me on how I can foster that in them at a young age?
Oh, I love that you tried and implement that right away because I think from the very beginning, at first, like they see us, right? So I think role modeling is number one
Okay.
for us as parents. Secondly, it just make it a habit, just like brushing your teeth, right? So thank you. If you're just saying thank you, or I'm so thankful that we have this, or wow, we're so fortunate that this is happening. Imagine if it didn't. So I think just
Hmm.
that language, they'll just get it. Like I think, I don't think it's something you can sit them down and say, okay, now we're going to do gratitude.
This is a class on
So
gratitude.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So I think just in the everyday, in the little things, in
Yeah.
the role modeling, and making it just like a habit, just like that's how I receive things
Yeah.
in a grateful way.
Yeah, we are the
Yeah,
best role models for our kids. They really look up to us. Sometimes
I
that's
know.
scary, though. No, no, don't look at me. I have a lot to work on.
But I think they also see that you are learning, and I think they're learning a lot from that. And they see that, oh,
Yeah.
look at you. You think you struggle with this, and you're doing all this work to grow and improve. And I
Yeah.
think that's also role modeling in a really positive, healthy way.
I try to admit when I make a mistake. I tell them, oh, I don't think I handled that very well. Maybe I could do better. And then I feel like that makes them more
Yes.
comfortable with making a mistake.
Yes. My oldest is 27.
Oh,
Then I
wow.
have another one who's 23. So she's the one that had the accident.
Yeah.
23, and we have a 15-year-old. We said we waited, when you eat when you have a big meal and you wait for the dessert to have a taste, that's kind of how she is at. She was our dessert.
You mentioned your husband now of, is it 30 years? You're married for 30 years now?
I think we're on to 31.
You talk about him in the chapter about how he was always very grateful and he always practiced gratitude. And in the beginning, he used to view that contentment as lacking motivation. How do
Hmm.
you see that now?
I now see it differently where if you're at a place where you're okay where you are and you're okay that it could change at any time and you're okay appreciating this moment, it's
Mhm.
also okay to elevate or to move to a higher level without it being wanting more, more, more. It's just you're very
Mhm.
content where you are, and also
Mhm.
you want to evolve. So now I see it, you almost need the one before you have the other. Because if you come from a place of lack, or you come from a place that we always say here, out of scarcity,
Yeah.
then it's a different kind of wanting more, right?
Yeah.
So I find when you have that gratitude, when you're content, when you're comfortable with what you are, even if you didn't have anything else, then I think it's a healthy way to say, oh, let's elevate this area.
Hmm. And do
Hmm.
you think it helps you tap into your intuition more than some sort of external validation? I know for me in the past, sometimes I would think that I wanted something, but it was just because
Yes.
someone else had it or I thought it would be cool. But now I'm working on being more content and I see things differently. I'm able to follow the intuition a little bit more.
Yeah, that is so powerful. And I find not many people get there because once you do, there's just this freedom. Like it's just this, you just feel liberated to actually tonight, I would like to stay home and do blah, blah, blah instead of,
Mhm.
looking flashy and going out for a fancy date just to say we did that. Like sometimes that's just not what you feel like doing, and it's okay. So
Yeah.
when you're able to listen to yourself and, like you said, to listen to your own intuition, it's just freeing. It really, really is.
Why did you join this particular project?
To tell you the truth, the first time I was asked to be part of the project, I hesitated and I said, let me think about it and I'll let you know. And, 2 days after, I'm like, what am I doing? So when I called back, the chapter that I was first thinking about doing had already been snagged by someone else, by another great
Oh.
author. So when we started to look at all the other different wellness topics they were looking at, when gratitude came up, I'm like, oh yes, that's why I passed on
Mhm.
that first one. It was meant to be have a very strong link to gratitude. It's just a way of life for me, and I was really excited and happy to share that with others.
And in this journey, this co-author journey, was there anything you learned about yourself during it? Anything new that you didn't know? Anything that came up?
Yeah, well, a lot. I think I don't give myself credit enough. I think maybe we all had a little bit of that. Like, why would I write about this? Everyone has their own journey and everyone
Mhm.
has their own experiences that they can share with people. It's not good or bad. It's you're
Mhm.
sharing an experience. You're sharing how you interpret certain things. So there's no good or bad there. You're just sharing. So I find that I gave myself a little bit more permission to say, it's okay, I'm just sharing this story and I'm sharing how I handle gratitude and I'm sharing how we've done it as a family and as a couple. And if someone can take one tiny little piece from that and do something in their own life, then I'm realizing how that is worth so much. It's worth more than any other accolade or money or any of that.
That would be the same for me as well. If someone reads it and then something changed in one way, it helped them in any way. That's the goal, right?
Yes, exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
And I do realize as well how, like just you doing this, like just that community, sometimes you hear the word community so much it kind of gets old, but like when
Yeah.
you actually do, when people help each other or
Hmm.
send out a little note or just an encouragement or saying, come on, you
Yeah.
can do this, or like that feeling was pretty special and something that I maybe had not quite thought that it would be as much as it was.